For me, the meaning of life is love. It could be love leading you to the peak of your success in your professional front. It could be love leading you to be whosoever you want to be.
Being a radio jockey, you constantly talk to people. How has this influenced your understanding of life?
In this medium, what you really get to learn is how a mind can operate. For me, I always try to keep a personal touch because radio exists to create that one person connect.
I have a very sensitive topic to talk about. How do you approach that situation?
Compassion is what drives you. You do not know whose corner you're basically touching, which alley you're crossing, and what can that create as an impact.
The world has changed drastically for the past 8 years, heavily dependent on our mobile phones.
Right.
Is there one insight that you have noticed?
Social media has got its own pros and cons. It is on you how you want to channelize it. Whether it is going to make a difference to somebody in a good way or you want to purposely hurt somebody is your call.
What's the most profound story or conversation you have had with a listener?
It was when Majerhat Bridge had broken and we're reaching out to people. So many calls, so many messages. I'm still getting goosebumps.
Hello,
Hello.
how are you?
Well, I am dozing on the black coffee, which I'm just about to sip again.
So this is the first time that you're having black coffee.
I made the debut on your show.
That's nice.
Yeah.
So, whenever I listen to radio, I am always awestruck the way they start their program, right?
Yeah.
They are an expert. And me being a cinematographer, starting this podcast has been a really challenging one. I've never been in front of the camera before. So, to get the intros right, to get, how to start the show. If you could, if this was your show, A Dialogue with Sukrit, how would you start?
Hi, guys. Finally, we are here to have a very candid banter. Welcome to A Dialogue with Sukrit, or maybe A Dialogue with Lajvanti.
Lovely, lovely, lovely. So what got you started into, being an RJ? Was it the music part? Was it connecting with the people? Or was it the storytelling? What got you into being an RJ?
So we have to pause and rewind a bit.
Okay.
I was always somebody who's been, interested in talking to people, knowing people. Interactivity is something that has always been a key factor in my case. I love human minds and the thoughts and the conversations that you get to roll with people. So precisely that is something that I wanted to do. And I think my passion drove me into it because my curriculum has been very different. I am a political science MA student going by the degree. So I had got nothing to do with mass communication or, any specialized course in radio or audio. This entire medium I'm talking about. But I've always been a weaver of words.
So, before this podcast, I was wondering one thing is how relevant is radio nowadays? Because we are bombarded with videos, whether it be in reel format, whether it be web series, film, and there's so much of consumption, there's so much of noise everywhere, because there's so much of content that everybody is a content creator nowadays. I was wondering that I really wanted to ask you this question is radio still relevant?
Of course.
And is the relevance as good as it was previously, few years back, or has the relevance decreased a bit?
See, these are changing times. But radio as a medium is a very real medium. And it's very true because I am that person who sits in a studio all by herself, not being able to see people, but being able to talk to people, understand their pulse. We have different portals right now. There's social media right now. So we're always connected. We're just a tap away. With radio also what happens is, to me, radio is like a breath of fresh air. People usually, not everybody has a premium subscription. And people who do have premium subscription and are listening to songs and music without any interruption and ads playing out, they also get bored of their playlists. And achanak se you just press that button. And you're like, let's just hear up what's happening on radio. So radio is like go-to mentor of yours, the go-to person. To me, radio is that go-to person, and go-to people don't lose their relevance with time also. They stay.
So you guys must be going through all the stats, right?
Right.
Does the stat remain the same, like the viewership from the previous years, of course,
Of course.
compared to the previous years?
Right. So we customize the shows that way. We know our target audiences. We cater, like every single presenter on radio has his or her own aura. They design their shows in a way where they can also make sense to people. Because end of the day, you need to be able to talk to people and be a place where people also come up to you and they are talking to you and confide in you.
So could you just take us through what kind of shows do you host in your channel?
For me, I always try to keep a personal touch because radio exists to create that one person connect, that contact. It is not a mass medium. I mean, although if you look at it, like everybody has access to radio, but radio is very individual centric. You're talking to a person, we call people up, like this used to happen before also on shows, say midnight shows, for example, and you're not feeling good, but you want to talk to somebody. And when you're on your radio, you probably listen to the RJ who's mentioning the number and you just want to call up and you want to talk to them, or you want to dedicate a certain song to somebody. You want to have a banter with your friend. You do all those prank calls. So it just helps you live emotions real.
So radio often serves as a companion to people during their highs and lows. How do you feel about being such an intimate part of your listeners' lives?
I think I have been blessed to be able to live this life. I am blessed to live this life because a few days back, the way people send the New Year messages, and I got an AI greeting card where I have been picturized as Ma Durga. And with a very beautiful voice note saying that, Lajvanti, I see her grace in you. That is why I put my imagination and my thought and the skill. And I made this because you are strength personified. So I feel that even if one person is saying that to me or writing that to me, I have been able to touch a chord and touch a life. And that is more important, far more rewarding and far more meaningful.
Being a radio jockey, you constantly talk to people and share ideas. How has this influenced your understanding of life and human connections?
Big time. I think in this medium, what you really get to learn is how a mind can operate. There are so many people who call up with very sensitive issues at hand, which possibly you don't have an immediate solution to offer. You can console. But to contain that, when that person is talking to you, when he or she is sharing something, deep down, it could be sorrow, it could be something life-changing, or it could just be confiding in you. So that is something which I have learned over time, how to cater to that part. Because in this world right now, and because we don't have time, we often tend to turn out to be very insensitive. So sensitivity is very important. And the words you choose to talk to people.
So in your programs, are you designing it for a more video-centric approach? Are you going for a more video-centric approach? Are you guys taking care of that part so that, if it's Instagram, like you guys just said that, you just said that there are portals where you are present.
Mm-hmm.
But is the visual part also being taken care of, or is it just the radio station and just a camera?
We're all socially very active. Our social media handles are
I'm
there.
not asking about being active. I'm asking about, visually being appealing, for the mass.
Right.
Do you have that approach, or is it just the radio station and a video camera?
No, it's more like what you're doing at that point of time. If I'm doing my show and I'm being recorded, then people get to see that as well. How we operate in a radio station, because end of the day, I'm doing the show. At the same time, there's a camera, which is also making the video part of it. The good part is that people can actually peek into the life of a radio jockey, which was hidden up until a few years back. Like, people didn't know how it is like to be a radio jockey, what it is to do a show from a radio station. So that way now, the presence is there. So once the presence is there, people will find a way to connect to you because we are consuming this kind of life on a daily basis where we need to see in order to believe in what is happening and how it works.
Do you believe the power of voice alone can create change in someone's life? Why or why not?
Well, voice, yes. Voice has its own effect. Voice is like an enhancer. But what you need to have is a thought behind the voice. You can't just, hey, how are you doing? Are you facing a problem? But then you have nothing to say after that. That's not going to cure anything. So I think it is more about combining both. It's like a merge of two mixes. It's like a very nice cocktail.
So, how do you approach? Say, if I am calling your show and I have a very sensitive topic to talk about, so how do you approach that situation? Of course, every situation would be different, and you would approach them differently. But is there a particular way of approaching, or a thought process of approaching sensitive topics?
See, when you're approaching a sensitive topic, automatically compassion is what drives you. Because your senses are awakened at that point of time, because you are speaking on something which probably carries a lot of weightage in multiple lives because you don't know. Again, you're on one side of the microphone and people can hear you. There are 10 lakh people who are listening to you. So you do not know whose corner you're basically touching, which alley you're crossing, and what can that create as an impact. There are people who have been on the verge of giving up. At that point of time, they were tuned into radio and their thought has changed for life. Radio has gifted them a whole new life. That is the impact you create through radio.
Can you share such a moment where you were very touched and you could actually bring in a change in a person's life? Is there any situation or a story that you can share with us?
I'll give you a happy one. Because I'm also not allowed to talk about, what I have been asked to keep as a secret. Because not every listener opens up on the microphone, by and large. But for people who have been a part of these conversations, one day I was not feeling good. And I was very down. So I am a big foodie. I always try to relate food, talk about food to just get the kick of my life and then do the show and engage my listeners in it. And I just by the by, I said that, I'm craving for biryani. I think only biryani can fix my mood. And the next thing I know is the person from security desk calling me and saying, Madam, apnar jonno duto biryani esche. I had no clue who had sent it. We figured it out later, but that had happened. We received biryanis. And that person has got nothing to do with me. It's not that I'm a part of his regular life, but then I'm also part of his life. That is what I could take away from this.
The impact is there.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great. What personal philosophies or life principles guide you in your career and daily life?
You should know what you don't want. More than what you do want, you can want, you might want. But you just need to know what you don't want.
So that is one simple philosophy that you follow?
That is the prime, that is the key. And then there are so many things because we're constantly balancing so many things at the same time. You're dabbling with various aspects of your life, be it personal, be it professional, be it the social commitments that you hold. And I think the most important thing is to embrace the situation at hand and not lose focus of yourself. Because at times, and there's this friend of mine who shared a story today itself. He told me that two people went on a walk and there's some store or some pop-up that's there and they are giving beagles away for free. So there are some people, so one of the friends, he says that let's go get the beagle. The other one says, line bahut lambi hai. So it's what you choose to focus on. If you want the beagle, you have to make that effort to go get the beagle because you know that you will get the beagle provided you have the patience to stand. And the other one says that, there's no point. It's a big line. Let's just go. Lose hope. So that's all. It's all about the beagle you want to get at the end of the day.
So, the bigger the empire, the bigger the corporate that you're working for,
Yeah.
there's a lot of toxic work culture. There's a lot of politics that happens within the office. So, how do you deal with that? And how do you overcome that?
Have you
Not
heard-
on a regular basis.
Because I want to be positive. That's it. And I ensure there's a word called levitate. At times you need to do that also.
So how do you levitate? Can you elaborate a bit? I know, but like for an audience, if they are listening, that being positive, okay, I am positive, but somehow, people will affect you.
Yeah.
No matter how positive you are, no matter what your approach is towards your life, towards your concentration, they tend to create situations for you where you are affected. So if something happens like that, how do you deal with that situation?
That has happened to me as well. That's something that happens to everybody in their own ways, especially when you're working in a corporate atmosphere. It does happen, it is bound to happen. But at the same time, what these things teach, probably we don't get to see it, but at the hindsight, it just tests you to the core for who you are. And if you know your core well, you wouldn't want to let anything affect the core. And that is what drives your confidence and your belief in your own self.
So what you're trying to say is, believing in yourself, knowing yourself, and always having a positive attitude.
The self-discovery is very important. You need to understand your strengths. You need to understand as to why you're getting affected and what can fix it. I'm not saying to tape it and put it under the carpet. No. I'm asking you to face it and to live up to it and to be able to tackle and sail through it. And you can take your own time. We all take our own sweet time. It's not that, flip and something is happening. Might not. But to go through the journey, to let it happen to you, to live it. A lot of people have forgotten to live these days. So you need to live your experiences. And not everything can be planned. I mean, some of the best things are unplanned.
So true. You have been speaking to people for the past 8 years, right?
Yeah.
You are an RJ for the past 8 years.
And more. But yes, if we consider the RJ part, yes.
Yeah. So you have been speaking to people for the past 8 years, and the world has changed drastically for the past 8 years. Like, mobile phones, we're heavily dependent on our mobile phones.
Right.
We are very quick. We don't have concentration levels are, decreasing day by day. What is your insight? Like, is there one insight that you have noticed? People were like this before. Now, when I'm speaking to people, now, there's this change that I can notice a pattern that has changed, that has evolved. I'm talking holistically, not as individual, so that we can get and understand the pattern. Have you noticed something like that?
I think people are way more vocal right now about how they feel and what they feel.
Okay.
Everyone has an opinion to share. I'm not saying whether it's right or wrong, but everybody by and large has got their own thing to say. So that is something that I find interesting. Because at times I've come across concepts and discussions and conversations have led to perspectives changing or something that we call food for thought. Like, you've believed in certain things a certain way. You have viewed it through a certain lens or a certain filter, but maybe there are other multidimensional aspects which come to play, which probably hasn't dawned upon you, but it helps you to see them or consider them, which challenges your thought process. And then it's a different matter altogether how you tailor it out.
So you look at it as a good aspect or a bad aspect?
I think it's a good aspect.
Too many opinions everywhere in every matter.
I think it is good in a way because people are getting an understanding of what is happening. But I'm not saying that you need to necessarily comment on other people and push your opinion through something. No. I am talking purely about the understanding of the matter.
Okay.
Which happens through a productive discussion. See, social media has got its own pros and cons. It is on you how you want to channelize it. And that's true for any medium. How you channelize it, whether it is going to make a difference to somebody in a good way or you want to purposely hurt somebody is your call, is how you play your part. But the good part about it is people are not quiet about things. People are vocal. Everybody is talking about the moment they see something which is unfair. I mean, with recent examples and incidences, this is clear that we all can come together for a bigger cause.
But that was always there. But of course, I get it where you're coming from. So, just taking this question forward. So, you as a human being, back, 8 years back, you were a different human being. Now you are a different human being because you have gone through so many experiences, day and night, right? Without any break. So, has there been a psychological or a philosophical shift? Are there nuances that has evolved that it was not back then you were not like that, but now you think in this way? Or is there a pattern of change in your thought process?
Big time.
So could you just share what was it back then and what is it right now? And it's the beginning of a new year. We all try to reset ourselves, the way we are going to take this year forward. So could you just take us through your mental state back then and now?
So you're saying it's a journey of 8 years.
Yeah. The mental shift, it doesn't have to be all the 8 years, but just back then and now. What is the mental shift? What is the mental situation right now? What are the things that you look at it differently right now after all the experiences that you've gone through?
So if one has to make progress, and as we say that we evolve with time, over time, that happens when you're basically a learner. And to be a learner, you have to unlearn. We are programmed in a way where we know it because we have been trained or taught a certain skill a certain way, or we know how to put it to the best of our capacities, and we are too easily convinced and we tend to believe it. Oh, this is the only way forward and this is how I do it. But not necessarily so. I mean, life is going to throw situations at you that you can't even think and imagine. And then you do what? Not everything is theoretical, not everything is written on pen and paper, that you go back to those books and you consult. You need to make your own road. You never take roads which are already taken, because then you're not an adventurer, you're not an explorer. You have to walk your own road.
So you are in a more exploration mode and you're more open right now.
Had I not done that, then I wouldn't have been able to survive. I think it's also something that adds on to your survival instinct and spirit to hold on to life. I had to unlearn and shed off whatever I had learned in order to pick something up. When you pick something new up, you invest in it. And you can't carry a lot of inhibitions in your head that this is not something that I'm going to do. You have to shed it off. And then your shell goes off. And then you grow a new skin. And that is what makes you a new person. So you're a fully packaged different person.
So you come from a very interesting background, radio. Like when we were in college, we would always listen to AIR. We would read about AIR. So keeping that aside, there's this question I keep asking everybody. Wherever I travel, because I do a lot of documentaries, so I keep asking this question just to get the different perspectives and point of views from different people from different background. So it would really be interesting to know, for you, what is the meaning of life?
For me, what's the meaning of life?
Yeah.
For me, the meaning of life is love.
Why?
Love, because that's the ultimate thing we seek at the end of the day.
Why is love the ultimate thing? Work can be ultimate thing. Your passion can be ultimate thing.
See, again, people think the moment I say love, it has to be a romantic love. No. It could be love leading you to the peak of your success in your professional front. It could be love leading you to be whosoever you want to be. But the core is love. You love yourself and you love what you do. And that's a very fierce combination. We're all creations of love.
So for you, the meaning of life is love.
Absolutely.
So whatever you do in life, the base is always love.
Absolutely so. Even my medium, the work that I do, because I love to do it, I'm doing it. And my only suggestion to people who I find friends cribbing about it, oh God, I'm not liking it and all of that. But at the same time, I mean, you feel a lot more lighter if you pursue things that you attach your heart to. And that stays with you. Because there's no point in living with a lot of distaste and regret in life. And as they say, the Gen Z lingo goes by saying YOLO, so YOLO. You only live once. So you live with love. That's it.
What's love? I don't know what love is. If you
You
are
don't?
no, so if you could just explain me what love is in your terms.
Absolute surrender. By absolute surrender, I mean by being who you are, not who someone else wants you to be.
Could you give us an example?
Like, for example, I'll tell you, this is something that radio has taught me. That if you don't love to talk about what you believe in, and you will always see this, that when you believe in something, you don't have to make extra efforts to convince somebody. It speaks volumes for itself. The entire message gets conveyed. And that makes you a communicator. For that, you have to be a good listener. And you have to have that in you to be able to have the bandwidth, because you love people, like I do in my case. I love listening to them. And that has only contributed to my mental progress as well. You know, the mental evolution part. Because we're processing so many things at light speed. And then we're filtering it out, because that is how it happens. And then the residual part, what is it that you keep, is in your hands. And if you want to keep something good, it better be love.
So one thing that I always notice is, people around me, whenever I talk to them, whenever I speak to them, most of them are very ambitious. They want this, that. They have a lot of thoughts regarding their future. What I have noticed recently is happiness is missing. Happiness is missing, people around me. But when I look at my parents, who don't live with me, by the way, they live a very simple life, and they are grown up, of course. They are aged, but they are happy. I have never had a conversation with them regarding, that why are they happy? What makes them happy? So according to you, are you a happy person? And what makes you happy? And what is happiness for you?
I am a happy person.
Okay.
Because if I'm not happy, then I won't be able to share my happiness, which I feel on the microphone. I won't be able to be the person I am, because I can't operate with any bone of negativity in me that's not me. And I feel if I were not happy, then I wouldn't be able to smile and talk to you.
But what is happiness? How does one be in a constant state of happiness? Even if not constant, but how does one stay happy?
Happiness is connected to peace. Things that give you peace make you happy. So it is all about how you allow that happiness to come to you. Because when you're happy, you're content. When you're content, you have a peace of mind, which is very different from greed. A lot of people think that, by getting the materialistic things in life, oh my God, I'm so happy. But are you? You're happy, you buy something and then you put it out of use. The excitement you carry to get your car home the first day, you take your friends on a drive, you're on the car.
That's it.
In a month's time, gaari khari hai niche. Yeah, we'll go. No worry. But happiness is very internal. You don't have to depend on somebody else for happiness. You give yourself that. That is what I've realized.
So are you a spiritual person?
I am spiritual. I am not too religious that way. I have huge respect for people, who have their beliefs a certain way. But in my case, it has been a spiritual journey. And that is why I think I call myself God's child. Yeah.
Do you think radio has a role in fostering social change?
Absolutely so. big time. So I'll give you another anecdote from my initial years when I joined my radio channel. It was when Majerhat Bridge had broken, and it was an absolute a chaotic situation. It was a catastrophic situation, rather. But we went there on ground. It was my first time to be on ground as an OB jock, which we call outdoor broadcasting. Like you're standing from the spot where the incident has happened, and you're connected through a call to the studio, whosoever is there at the studio. And we're reaching out to people. So many calls, so many messages for their near and dear ones, for their close people. Did you know this is the number? And we were constantly asking them to let us know so that we could connect them together, so that they knew that the people are safe or what the situation is like. So that first hand on ground experience has also taught me big time what calamity looks like. Because we are not conditioned or acclimatized in a manner where we know what needs to be done the moment there is this kind of a situation. Like, it's a disaster. But to witness it, to experience it, to see the tension which is floating around in the air at that point of time, I'm still getting goosebumps. It's something that even words fail to describe. So radio is a medium which allows you to not only bring changes, but also help you bring a change.
As a female RJ, do you feel a responsibility to represent women's voice in the media? How do you navigate this in your work?
As a female radio jockey, or a resource for that matter, I feel it is very important to stand by and stand for the women that you work with, and not only the women that you work with, but for every single woman around. Because we do not want anybody to be a victim anymore. And the organization that I work for takes essential steps to maintain that. Very recently, we were also taking workshops based on this.
Workshops on?
Workshops on how to be aware and educate yourself with sexual harassment. What needs to be maintained, what are the boundaries, because often to our understanding, we don't realize that somebody is actually harassing you at that level and we just let it pass. But to be aware, and if you make a note of it, to be there for somebody, because not everybody is going to be comfortable coming out in the open or addressing an issue or even realizing that it is taking a form like that. So to be there, to feel for the other person, to stand by is very important. And in my organization, the thing that keeps motivating me the most, and I'm so proud to say this, some of the big chairs are headed by the women. And that is in itself something that inspires you to go to work every day because you don't see that kind of discrimination or disparity.
Lovely. What's your take on the role of women in shaping modern media and communication industries?
Women are everywhere. Be it when it comes to establishing business houses, women are leading. Some women have stories to share where they started with nothing, but now they've created their own empire. I guess that is the best part, because usually with something that involves a lot of capital, money, a profit, people usually see somebody in a tux or a tie sitting across the table. But women have been the game changer.
What's the most profound story or conversation you have had with a listener? How did it affect you?
This happened pretty recently, where one of my listeners, who's a college student, had lost somebody very close to her, and she was not in the headspace to take the examination. And she happened to message me. So immediately it caught my attention, because I wouldn't want somebody to just leave out on taking an exam, because it is a college exam, it is important. And she has been a very loyal listener to me. So I know her for years. There's a relationship which is just beyond the studio walls. This goes back to 2013 when I lost my grandfather. And I was very attached to my grandfather. Like, he has been my constant and he still is. I never talk about him in past tense that way. So it was my day of writing an exam, and it was my honors final paper that I had to write. I was just going on to my second year of college. It was that phase. And that was the very day in the morning when I lost my grandfather. And with a lot of people, when they gathered in the house, somebody was insensitive to say that, oh my God, what kind of a person is she? What kind of a granddaughter is she that she has to go and not be at the hospital, but she's planning to go to college? Because at that point of time, I did not have the headspace, or neither did I feel the need to make somebody understand my grief and how I was bleeding. The only thing I had on my mind was, this is going to make Dadu happy. And he used to always tell me, he used to show me a lot of Bengali classic old films. And our favorite was Koni, Soumitra Chattopadhyay. And he would tell me, fight, Koni, fight. And that was the spirit. That was like a code word between him and me. And I kept telling myself, fight, Koni, fight. We have to go and do it. Because that is what is going to make him happy. The rest of the things don't count. There has to be a purpose to your love in your life. And that is how you make life meaningful. So I did that back in the day. I went for it. And that is exactly what I told my listener. And I actually made her go to her college so that she at least goes, sits, writes something, and then gets back to me.
Wonderful. In a world filled with noise, both literal and metaphorical, how do you find and share meaningful moments through radio?
We share meaningful moments through radio by weaving our stories with songs. And when I say songs, I just don't mean the song. I mean the artist, I mean the musicians, I mean the music director, the day we're celebrating, the significance of anything around us, which is real. And that is how we craft it. For example, it's a rainy day in Calcutta, and we're on the 17th floor looking right outside that French window, and it's a huge view. And then you crave for a bit of kebab, and you crave for a nice company, and you would want to listen to, for example, a Rekha Bhardwaj. And that is the mood that you create because romance is on your mind. And then there's a story to tell. Or you probably dedicate a Gulzar Shairi, and that's how you brew the love for somebody who wants to dedicate something to his beloved. We've done that. I have done that. There are a lot of things that you can't probably sum up the courage to tell somebody, and you need somebody to be that medium who's going to gift you that moment. Radio gifts you that moment.
I could feel the magic while you were speaking, and I was transferred into a different space. Yeah, so I can relate. I actually got the answer. Like, how you create the magic through the microphone, through the medium. This is beautiful. This is damn beautiful.
Thank you.
And this the silence while you're speaking in between. Like there are a few moments of pause, and the way you're speaking each word, everything is very, there's a lot of emotion behind every word that you speak. To get to that mood and to get to that, to create that space for the listener. And that is what even we try to do as a visual artist, try to create a mood through lighting, through our lenses. So I could relate somehow that you are doing the same with words and with music.
Yeah, because you need to absorb, and you have to be like a sponge. You have to absorb. Of course, observation is also there, but you have to soak it in. You have to feel it. If you don't feel it, then you can't fill.
If there's one message that you would want to broadcast to the entire world, say the entire world is listening to you, what would that be?
Be you, because that is your only power. There's no point being somebody else. Just be you.
How do you define success? Not only professionally, but as a human being.
It's the labor of love. It's a reflection of what you've put in. Success is that. Success is like an embodiment of every single force that you have invested in making what you have to make and in making life happen to it. When we say that the actors are so successful, because usually in the country we live in, we're always like hero worshipping somebody or the other. So we have all the Khan fans, and this is happening, and we tend to look up to celebrities more. We place them as icons. Some people look up to them as inspirations as well, and rightfully so. But how does that happen? It is not just about somebody coming and giving you a blockbuster and making like 100 crore business at box office. It is about, again, the process that leads the way to that. Success is something which is definite, but what lies infinite is inside you. So basically, you are infinite, and success makes it very finite. It gives a definition, a recognition, and it's like a badge of honor.
Have you ever thought of changing the medium to something else? Like, has that thought ever evolved in you that, I should, move on? Radio, okay, I'm done. So many years. I should move on to television, or I should move on to, digital platforms, which is more visual oriented.
I guess I have been learning the right things because of my craft. And my craft has taught me to be whosoever I want to be. That is what radio has taught me. Tomorrow I could be a superwoman. The next day I could be the next door girl. So I have the power to be whosoever I want to be. And in today's world, we can be many things. So I've never restricted myself to just radio. And that's not been the case with me. I've been a part of films. I've done stage. I have also been an active debater since childhood. So I've always wanted to be in conversations, exchange dialogues with people, get to know more people. And that is not just radio that has led me to doing that.
You come from a very interesting background, as in family. So your mother has sang songs for Hira Mandi. So if you could just take us through that journey, being a part of a family, being a daughter of legend. How does that feel, and how do you manage that?
Well, it was one fine morning that we were having our coffee, because that is the time that I get to spend with my mother right in the morning before going to work. And like a good daughter, I am seated across the sofa. And there's a phone call. There's somebody, a gentleman, speaking on the other side. And I'm just being able to see my mother, her expressions. And I'm just seeing her expressions changing with every passing minute. And then she puts it on speaker. So I get to hear, "Hello, Barnali ji. मैं संजय बंसाली बोल रहा हूँ." So pinch me right now. But back then, all I could feel is, man, the universe. And the way it manifests things for you, it can take time. But it makes things happen so that it stays forever. You never know what's going to happen, what's going to come next. I surely take a lot of pride because I have literally grown up with my mother. Single-handedly, she has been helming home affairs, professional front, everything, very gracefully. And I am a product of a rebel, so I'm bound to be one.
Is there anything that you would want to say for the young crowd of our country?
Live free. Chase your dreams. Make it happen. Take those risks. Don't get bogged down by what's not working out. And if you really believe in something, be at it. I mean, people quote Akshay Kumar by saying that, he's a person who doesn't believe in awards. He's only somebody who believes in rewards. Here also, I'll say the same thing. You don't know what's waiting for you unless you take that path, unless you walk on your own. And at times when you don't find the roads, you make your own bridge to get to that. For that, you need to take those risks. And you need to give yourself the permission. At the end of the day, you are you. You make your rules, you break your rules. And that defines you for who you are. And I've always believed in one thing: it's better to burn than fade away.
Thank you so much. It was a very, very, very interesting conversation, and I wish we have you more often and speak about different topics, because I feel the conversations are really good.
Best conversations are brewed over black coffee, I believe.
So now you start taking black coffee regularly.
I'll update you on that. Thank you so much for having me over.
Thank you.